Today, I'm creating the strongest ninja that ever lived in the Naruto universe. I will cover every trait and aspect a character can have and pick only the best of the best in each category. And by the end of the video, we will be left with a character so overpowered that not even the Otsutsuki gods would be able to stand in the way of the character I am about to create. But before we begin, let's make this a little bit more difficult, shall we? So here's two small rules. One, we can only use a trait from a character just once. So for example, if we choose to go for Naruto's ninjutsu abilities, then we will not be able to choose Naruto again for another trait like his chakra reserves, speed, or intelligence. Number two, the Otsutsuki clan is not considered. We're creating a character that is supposed to fight the Otsutsuki, and thus we want to create the ultimate Shinobi for that. So characters like Kaguya, Ishiki, Momoshiki are not considered. However, their vessels are considered, since technically they are still Shinobis. So let's start from the very basic types of techniques, also known as jutsus. First in line is ninjutsu. The first candidate is none other than the copy ninja Hatake Kakashi. It's not random that this guy literally got this specific nickname. After all, he was indeed known for another nickname as Kakashi of the 1000 Jutsus. Kakashi had vast knowledge over ninjutsu and was among the very few people who could perform both the Rasengan and the Chidori. Whatever technique he was faced against, he could copy it in a matter of seconds, as displayed during his fight with Zabuza, where Kakashi was literally copying Zabuza's jutsus on the spot. The second candidate is none other than Orochimaru, that literally spent his entire life studying and experimenting on all kinds of techniques, including his pursuit of immortality. As a matter of fact, Orochimaru was stated at some point to, quote, have the deepest knowledge and skill in ninjutsu than any other shinobi in history. Although this feat does sound impressive, I tend to believe this was a bit of an overstatement. The next character we are considering is Madara Uchiha, which we all know is no joke. You don't get called the god of shinobi for no reason after all. However, I tend to believe that there are better candidates than him due to the fact that Madara's overwhelming strength was the result of all his attributes being heightened to their maximum, not just his ninjutsu skills. Since we are only considering ninjutsu for the time being, let's see what other candidates we have. The next candidate is none other than Tobirama Senju. As a Senju, Tobirama was skilled in a variety of ninjutsu forms, which included Shuriken Jutsu as well as barrier ninjutsu. Tobirama's skill with various space-time ninjutsu is well remembered. Using the Flying Thunder God technique, he could instantly teleport himself and or other targets to any location marked with a seal or connected to his chakra. He was the inventor of many high-grade ninjutsu, including Shadow Clones, Edo Tensei, as well as Flying Thunder God. So it's safe to argue his proficiency in ninjutsu was vast. Having said all that, however, I would have to go for another character, Boruto. Now, before you come at me, even as a young child, Boruto was considered a genius, and he literally manages to create two incredibly overpowered Rasengan variations from scratch that no one before him managed to create, these being Vanishing Rasengan and Rasengan Uzuhiko. Add to the fact that Boruto can practically use the highest form of space-time ninjutsu to travel to any dimension he wants, or even use the Flying Thunder God technique. Yeah, Boruto is a pretty valid choice here. This was just the first point, and we still have 19 more traits left to analyze. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. The next trait we have in line, Genjutsu. The first candidate is Sakura. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Here we will obviously consider members of the Uchiha clan, namely Shisui, Madara, Obito, Sasuke, and Itachi. For Madara and Obito, all I'm going to say is that they could both literally put Kurama under a Genjutsu and control it to execute their plans, something we can all agree is no joke. For Sasuke, despite not being weak in that attribute, I tend to believe the next two characters excel more for their Genjutsu ability. These two are none other than Itachi and Shisui. Between the two, Itachi even stated that Shisui was better than him at Genjutsu. So there's that. Now between Shisui, Madara, and Obito, I tend to lean more towards Shisui. Plus, I reserve Madara and Obito for other traits later on in the video. For the third ability, we have Taijutsu. Here, the prime candidates are the two obvious ones, Might Guy and Rock Lee. Both of them reached the level of Jonin Ninja by practicing just Taijutsu. So this should really tell you just how proficient they are at it. For Rock Lee, through Guy's teachings, he learned to open 5 of the 8 gates at age 12, the 6th gate at age 17, and the 7th gate sometime after the 4th Great Shinobi War. By adulthood, Lee mastered the final gate as well. Using the 6th gate, Lee is able to move so fast he can save Guy from Madara's truth-seeking ball, which moved fast enough that Obito couldn't use Kamui to escape from them. He is recognized as a genius for this feat by Kakashi Hatake, who notes it is highly difficult for even the most talented ninja to open even one gate. Pointless to mention, with each gate he opens, Lee's strength, speed, chakra levels, and bodily functions increase tremendously. However, among the two, Rock Lee and Might Guy, I would have to go for Might Guy that actually used the 8th gate against Madara and absolutely wiped the floor with him. If he could maintain the 8th gate for longer, then he could even defeat Ten Tails Madara Uchiha. Even Madara himself declared him as, quote, the strongest. Moving on to Sage Mode, also known as Senjutsu. Normally, here we'd have to consider 4 candidates. For the first two, however, aka Naruto Uzumaki and Hashirama Senju, we will leave them out for the time being, because there's other traits we reserve on using for them, which leaves us us with Mitsuki and Kabuto. Even though there are other characters with the ability to use Sage Mode, not everyone had the same level of mastery over this ability. Jiraiya, for example, had his face being partially turned into a frog, as evidence of the non-perfect Sage Mode state he was in. For Kabuto, while in Sage Mode, he can make further use of others' abilities through his technique known as Strange Transmission Distant Shadow Technique, which grants him all the skill sets of whoever he has genetic samples of. But is Kabuto's Sage Mode a better choice than Mitsuki's? I don't think so. You see, unique to him, while in Sage Mode, Mitsuki grows a single horn from his forehead, which is actually the reason many theories claim that Mitsuki might have a form of Otsutsuki's Sage Mode as a result of the modifications done to him by Orochimaru. His speed and overall strength increased tremendously, so much that he's a whole different person while in Sage Mode, and when active, he is at least a mid-Kage level character. If I had to choose, I would go for Mitsuki's Sage Mode. Having covered the base jutsu forms, let's give our character a dojutsu. The main options here are Sasuke with his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan, Pain with Dual Rinnegan, Hinata with the Byakugan, Boruto with the Jogan, Ida with Senrigan, and Kawaki with Ishiki's unnamed dojutsu. So let's briefly explain the abilities of each. When it comes to Sasuke, he basically has all the abilities a standard dual Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan user has, and also has the standard abilities of a Rinnegan user. For Sharingan, this includes the ability to summon Susanoo, cast Amaterasu, use advanced genjutsu, the ability to use Chidori effectively, Izanagi and Izanami, among others. For Rinnegan, this includes planetary devastation, space-time ninjutsu, see limbo clones, even bring people back to life. Now, when it comes to Sasuke versus Pain, Sasuke's abilities are surely superior. When it comes to Hinata's Byakugan, the main attribute is that it allows the user to see the chakra flow, which in turn allows for some incredibly overpowered attacks. Jogan now, well, we don't know much about this ability, so we'll have to place a question mark on that one for now. Ida's Senrigan ability allows her to project one's consciousness to any location to see and hear any present event, even taking place in a different dimension, as well as any past event up to the moment of their birth. And finally, Kawaki's unnamed dojutsu allows the user to change the size of themselves and or non-living creatures to use for all kinds of unpredictable attacks. In my opinion, the best candidates here are Sasuke and Kawaki, but since I want to use Kawaki for another trait later on, I'll be taking Sasuke's dojutsu, aka his EMS and Rinnegan. Okay, so having added a Mangekyo Sharingan to our character, we now need to assign a special Mangekyo ability. You see, Mangekyo Sharingans always come with a unique ability that is special to their users. Here, I will not even consider a lot of candidates, as I believe the best Mangekyo ability is that of Obito's, aka the Kamui. However, since we're going to use Obito later on in the video, we can achieve the same result with Kakashi, and thus, we take the special Mangekyo ability of Hatake Kakashi. You see, Kamui allows the user to transfer objects to and from another dimension, including their own bodies or part of their own bodies. The result of that, unless our character is on the offense, no one can actually even touch him, as again, this dimension is accessible to only the Kamui user alone. Even though the dojutsu is considered a Kekkei Genkai, let's give our character another one, since, you know, why not? Obviously, we will not be considering dojutsus as we already analyzed them. From the rest of the Kekkei Genkai, some of the strongest ones include Magnet Release, Lava Release, Kimamaro's Bloodline Limit, just to name a few. However, none of these even comes close to the strongest non-dojutsu Kekkei Genkai, Hashirama's Senju's Wood Release. This ability is so rare that literally no other person in history ever manifested this ability naturally. When it comes to his raw strength, well, I think Hashirama did display what this ability can really do, and let me tell you, it's no joke. However, since I want to use Hashirama later on in the video, let's just use Yamato, that also possesses the Wood Release. Okay, next, let's give our character a Kekkei Tota as well. Here, our options are quite limited, or better put, we don't even have a choice to begin with. The only known example is Dust Release of Onoki. To perform Dust Release, users form a small three-dimensional object out of chakra in their hands, most commonly a cube. The object expands once released by the user and moves astonishingly fast at its target. Anything that passes through it is disintegrated at a molecular level. Because of the sheer destructiveness of Dust Release, its users are usually unmatched in a fight, and they can easily fend off countless enemies. So yeah, despite our lack of options, I'm not complaining. This ability is actually broken. Okay, so we covered a bunch of incredibly overpowered abilities and techniques. However, they would all mean very little if our character runs out of chakra in the middle of a fight. Because of that, let's give our character the chakra reserves of someone. Now, the possible candidates are two. First of which, Kisame. You see, Kisame possessed massive chakra reserves, well above those of other Otsutsuki members. His superhuman chakra level had earned him the title of the tailed beast without a tail. Having said that, there is a certain group of people excelling for their chakra reserves, the Uzumaki clan. Hear this. The Uzumaki clan are known for their vast amount of chakra and life force. The one with the most chakra out of them? None other than Naruto Uzumaki. Even as a child, his chakra was so massive that he could create hundreds, if not thousands of shadow clones with little effort. Something that, if someone else did, it'd literally put their life life in danger due to the extreme consumption of mana. But Naruto? That was literally nothing for him. Because of that, we are taking the chakra reserves of Naruto for our character. Moving on, let's give our character a tailed beast as well. Here we should point out that we are not considering the tailed beasts themselves as candidates, but rather the Jinchurikis that hosted them instead. As again, we are going for ninja traits. For example, the Kurama, we are considering Kushina and Naruto. For Shukaku, we are considering Gaara, and so on and so forth. Naturally, the strongest tailed beast we can go for is the 10 Tails. Its known non-Otsutsuki users are Madara Uchiha and Obito Uchiha. For Obito, once again, we reserve him for another trait, leaving us with Madara in order for us to take the 10-tailed beast. I know, no one can stand in our way already, right? Well, hold on, because we still got another 9 traits left to cover. The next trait in line is regeneration, and which characters are we considering? First of all, Hashirama Senju. As stated by Madara, Hashirama could regenerate and heal himself non-stop during battle without even having to form hand signs or seals. He was so overpowered in that area that this was among the main reasons that earned him the title, the God of Shinobi. The second character we consider is Naruto Uzumaki, that, as we saw, showcased some insane feats of regeneration throughout the show. However, having already picked him, let's analyze the other 2 candidates. These 2 are Tsunade and Sakura, both of which displayed similar feats of regeneration. You see, by releasing of the 100 healing seal, the marking extends over the user's entire body. As a testament to both its power and her confidence in its healing prowess, Tsunade has decreed that the only medical nin who have mastered this technique are permitted to break the first 3 rules that govern their role on the battlefield, which effectively prohibit their direct involvement in any conflict that she established herself. This makes herself and her student Sakura the only ones allowed to break these rules, as during this state, any injuries can instantly regenerate, making the users of this ability close to immortal. However, given that this ability is only temporary, while Hashirama's was an ongoing trait of regeneration, I would probably have to go with Hashirama instead. 12 traits down, 8 more to go. Our next ability is physical strength. Here we will be considering 4 candidates. The first is Jugo, that while using his transformation, he becomes insanely more powerful. Having said that, given that this is kind of a sage mode, we will probably choose someone else. The second candidate is the third Raikage. Now, this guy possessed both enormous speed and strength, and his defense, literally almost impenetrable. Ultimately, the only attack strong enough to seriously injure him was his own, resulting in the scar on his chest. But even like that, I'd probably have to go for one of the next 2 characters, either Tsunade or Sakura. You see, both of them fought exclusively with the use of their strength. No fancy ninjutsu, no tailed beasts, no dojutsu, just them throwing hands in battle. Both of them were seen literally destroying the ground with a single punch. Jiraiya almost lost his life when Tsunade punched him. Let me tell you, I'm pretty sure she wasn't even going all out. Among the 2 now, which one would I choose? Well, although debatable, I would probably have to go with adult Sakura for strength. In the world of Naruto, however, a trait even more important than strength is, of course, speed. Which are the best candidates here? As we explained, the third Raikage is obviously a candidate, as he was known for his inhuman speed. Who else? Well, both Tobirama and Boruto were considered incredibly fast. But how about we cut to the chase? After all, we all know where I'm going for this. For speed, we are taking Minato Namikaze, the fastest shinobi that ever lived. You see, Minato was so fast that he could literally take care of an entire army of soldiers all by himself during the Third Great Shinobi War. Naturally, we are going for his speed. But hear this next ability. After all, it will be a game changer. Intelligence. The 3 most clever characters we know of when it comes to scientific breakthroughs and overall intelligence at least are Amado, Shikamaru, and Orochimaru. Shikamaru excelled for his strategic thinking and for how fast he could process and assess a situation. Orochimaru, even though his experiments were obviously not the most ethical ones, his knowledge of genetic modification and overall IQ levels are nonetheless undoubtedly impressive. And finally, Amado, which, to be honest, this is our choice for IQ. You see, Amado was shown to be able to create all kinds of cyborgs strong enough to take down entire nations on their own. He can create performance-enhancing pills, replicate the karma, modify the bodies of individuals to make them stronger. I mean, Amado is the obvious choice for our character's IQ. Having said that, intelligence would mean little if our character did not know how to properly fight to begin with. Because of that, we'll be giving our character the battle IQ of someone. Naruto, being a show revolving around ninjas and the tactical way they fight, naturally means we've got quite a few candidates here, all of which are insanely clever when it comes to combat approach and tactics. First of all, let's talk about Itachi Uchiha. You see, Itachi was a highly intelligent individual, having the second highest scores in the history of the Chunin exams written test behind Minato Namikaze, and all of that without resorting to cheating. Composed and observant, he thought very quickly and remained calm even in a fight, enabling him to respond with maximum efficiency and with the smallest likelihood of misjudging circumstances. Even at a young age, he was always calculating and methodical in his approach to the situation at hand, leaving little room for error. He took several precautions for Sasuke. Against Tobi, he even planned techniques in advance in order to activate after his death. Even Tobi admitted that if he didn't keep some secrets from Itachi, he would have been killed by Itachi's Itachi's trap. During his infiltration of Konoha, Itachi was also able to subtly leak Akatsuki's goals to Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, and Jiraiya without arousing Kisame's suspicions. The next candidate is Madara Uchiha. Madara's years of experience on the battlefield honed his strategic ingenuity. He could quickly devise a number of approaches and would switch approaches immediately while in battle. The longer he spent against a particular opponent, the less he needed backup tactics, as he could eventually predict what they would do and identify literal or psychological weaknesses to exploit. He could form and verify any theories he came up with by observing small details while in battle. In addition to his sheer adaptability, Madara was knowledgeable on a large variety of individuals and abilities, and thus could identify techniques when used and react with the most appropriate counter to them. Likewise, Madara was an excellent teacher, having single-handedly trained the young Obito into a powerful shinobi comparable to himself. As a researcher, he experimented on and cultivated a clone flower through the demonic stature of Outer Path, and from it, he created a life support system for himself. He had enough medical knowledge to transplant eyes, treat severe injuries, and could replace destroyed body parts with white Zetsu matter. Even though those two are prime candidates, I think it's best if we consider these next three candidates as well. First out of the three is Jiraiya. Despite his goofy and eccentric nature, Jiraiya was actually very shrewd in the field. His specialty is intelligence gathering, having a spy network that runs throughout the 5 great shinobi countries that he can use to gain information about a particular person or group to be used to his or his allies' advantage. In combat, he is very perceptive, as seen when Jiraiya observes all of the opponent's various actions, forms a theory about how and why, and he uses that theory to try and capitalize in the battle. He has repeatedly proven to be a very talented teacher, as all of his students went on to become very powerful and well-known shinobi. Next in line is Kakashi. You see, once he identifies an opponent's weakness, Kakashi can quickly formulate a plan to take advantage of it, efficiently utilizing each of his allies' unique skills to that purpose. Such plans, while often elaborate and unorthodox, are typically highly successful and very low risk, making Kakashi invaluable as a leader. He has also proven himself a very talented teacher, able to push his students' development by months, if not years, in just weeks through various innovative methods. And our last candidate, Minato. As we explained, Minato holds the highest scores in the history of the Chunin exam's written test. Not only that, but generally speaking, Minato was a very keen-minded individual. He graduated the academy at the age of 10 years old, going on to have the highest scores in the history of the Chunin exam's written test. Even at a young age, only he of all the ninjas sent to rescue Kushina noticed the trail she left behind to mark her kidnapper's path. In combat, he could correctly deduce the basic mechanics behind a technique after seeing it only once, and from there, plan around its strengths and weaknesses to his or his allies' advantage. With his observational skills, he could determine the opponent's plans and motivations based only on limited evidence. After he had finished analyzing, Minato would strike quickly and with precision, attacking vulnerabilities at the most opportune moments. So, having said all of that, we already used Kakashi, Minato, and Madara, so between Itachi and Jiraiya, I would probably have to go for Itachi. As we saw in the Naruto universe, certain seals can grant immense power to certain characters. Because of that, let's give our character a seal. The best options are the Karma, Orochimaru's Cursed Mark, and the 100 Healings. Between these three, I would obviously take the Karma seal, so let's use Kawaki for it. You see, the Karma significantly enhances the user's physical speed, strength, and jutsu power, and allows them to absorb chakra and chakra-based attacks like ninjutsu. Karma can also be used as a medium for space-time ninjutsu, transforming the mark on their palm into a symbol resembling their horn pattern and opening a rift to any location, including foreign dimensions. If one properly draws on their Karma, they can overlay the accumulated Otsutsuki combat experience with their mind and body, instantly becoming a seasoned fighter. According to Code, this is the true essence of Karma and grants the user an exponential increase in battle power, well beyond that conferred by the enhanced physical abilities alone. With enough experience, the user can progress the Karma to a more powerful state, gaining access to the Otsutsuki's unique powers, including their Shinjutsu. On to the last 3 abilities. And before you assume we're almost done, just wait to hear what we have in store for the last ability. I guarantee you, it'll change everything. The next trait in line is summoning. Here, the strongest summoning we know of is not up for debate, as it was explicitly stated to be the strongest summoning in Naruto, at least in the time it was introduced. This summoning is none other than Manda. Manda was very powerful, feared as the strongest colossal serpent. He was able to stand his own against Gamabunta and Katsuyu, having almost killed them both. It is also obvious that he was well known, as Gamakichi was afraid of him just because of his gaze. He was extremely fast, as he was able to dodge Katsuyu's attack and restrict it. He was also able to shed his skin in a manner similar to Orochimaru's technique, when caught ablaze by Gamabunta and Jiraiya's collaboration technique, and moved underground in quick succession. His body was also sturdy enough to withstand Deidara's ultimate attack, and remain intact, while providing a relatively safe shelter for Sasuke to hide inside his mouth, although this came at the cost of Manda's life. Its known summon casters are Sasuke and Orochimaru, and since we already used Sasuke, let's just go with Orochimaru for this one. 18 traits down, 2 more to go. The next trait in line is a weapon. Now, we could indeed speak about a lot of insanely strong weapons, but instead, we'll just get straight to the point and present what we think is the strongest among them. This is none other than the Sword of Nunoboko that was wielded by Obito Uchiha. You see, the Sword of Nunoboko is known to have been wielded by the Sage of Six Paths himself using the Truth-Seeking Orbs. This weapon is known to have been powerful enough to shape the entire world, and if the user wishes so, he can just as easily destroy the world. And finally, we reach the last point of today's video, the special ability. Now, if you didn't already realize, there are certain abilities in the Naruto universe that are not 100% tied to any of the abilities we've mentioned. They're not necessarily part of any ninjutsu technique, they're not part of taijutsu or senjutsu or Rekeke Genkai, and so on, but rather, they are abilities occurring only to certain individuals. Let's explain some of them. For example, Kisame showcased the ability to breathe underwater. Even though this is not the strongest ability out there, it's still a special ability we could consider. Another special ability is being scientifically modified, like it happened with Amato's Cyborgs. However, since we already used Amato's intelligence, this practically becomes redundant. So, now let's just analyze the actual 3 strongest special abilities. The first one is Damon's signature ability to instantly turn an opponent's attack on him against them. Ida claims that the mere mental image of the killing scene is enough to trigger a reflection, which then scales with killing intent. She considers Damon the only non-Otsutsuki capable of killing her simply because of this broken ability. However, this ability does have a weakness. Damon must be within melee range to use it, and this power has been mostly demonstrated in close order fights with little distance between him and his opponent. The second special ability we are considering is Ida's ability to make all who see her, man or woman, with the exception of blood relatives and the Otsutsuki, automatically fall in love with her to the point they cannot hurt her. But as we previously explained, we are trying to create a character that can defeat any Otsutsuki. This ability not working on them makes it practically useless for us, and because of that, we reach the actual strongest special ability in Naruto, and the one we will actually be taking, Hidan's immortality. You see, Hidan's primary ability was his inability to die. His immortality allowed him to survive numerous fatal injuries and almost any form of dismemberment. He even retained his ability to speak after having his head cut off. However, his head still needed to be connected to his body in order to control it, so Kakuzu reattached it, and other body parts when needed. Despite Shikamaru's attempt to blow him into smithereens using hundreds of paper bombs adhered to his entire body, the former only succeeded in decapitating him with the full impact of the explosion. Even though he was impervious to most physical attacks, as well as survived the injuries that actually got through to him, he was still susceptible to pain, which he came to find pleasure in that expense of his opponents. This inability to die was the primary reason for his partnership with Kakuzu. Since Kakuzu couldn't kill him, Kakuzu didn't need to find new partners after his fits of rage. Although the two disliked working together, this advantage made them the ideal team. His immortality was exploited in mutual advantage by Kakuzu, where the pair would perform a combo involving one of Kakuzu's hearts using a wind release jutsu in unison with Hidan striking at an opponent. Such an attack would maim the victim but leave Hidan unimpaired. Despite being immortal, he is still capable of dying from a lack of nutrients. Since you made it all the way to the end, click on this video for more anime content. Go on, check it out!